Greetings folks, I just thought I would share some of the things I've learned in the first few days of 3D printing and getting the printer up and working properly. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I love the printing process and even a little bit of designing as well, and I'm sure I'm going to get lots of future enjoyment out of it. I found it very easy and very rewarding to use, but there are a few things you need to learn about it. Number one, you're going to have to buy some filament. This is what I've bought, which is eSun 3D filament. Bought it online. I'll put the link in the description below. It came within a few days, which is great. You'll need to store the filament somehow. So I've bought one of these Systema tubs with a seal, and I've got some silica gel in there to control humidity, because apparently humidity is bad for filament. They say you need to use it within 12 months, so may not be a good idea to buy a whole stack of it in case you don't use it. But it's reasonably cheap anyway. This 1 kilogram reel cost about $25 Australian plus a bit for postage. So that's not too bad. The size of these reels is 20 centimetres by 7 centimetres, so ideally you need a tub that will fit 14 centimetres high and at least 20 centimetres wide. It cost me about 15 bucks. I have actually done some little mods to the printer as well. You can see I put the spool down, I've bolted on to the side of the table here. It was setting up on the top, and the filament would come down and then sort of go into the extruder there. It's better to have a straight run for the filament going straight into the extruder, so that's a better position for the filament to go in. Puts less strain on it, it's not going to kink it or break it. Easy thing to do. And then of course you want to start printing things. So I've started printing a few little bits and pieces. One of the first things you can do is print up some mods for the printer itself. One of the things I've printed is a little fan cover. I'll put a link to this. Downloaded this from Thingiverse. There's a little cooling fan for the motherboard in there, but of course anything that drops off the table here will fall into the fan. So clever people have designed these little fan covers. Now, one thing that the printer can't do is print across empty space. So in some designs you'll have to also print an infill support, but the Cura program sort of works all that stuff out for you, and you just break out the little support. There it is there. That's a zigzag design support, so that's just something you have to learn. But prints like that, and then you just sort of prise this inside bit out. There we go. So that'll just go on there like that. I downloaded this one, this pilot model, Manfred model from Thingiverse. Again, I'll put the link below. And it's not solid, it's sort of something like a 2mm wall with internal mesh work, and again the Cura program works all that out for you. It takes quite a long time to print. This took about 3.5 hours to print, I think, but it's a fantastic little model. So I've got my paints here. I'm going to paint him up, something like that. And I've started dabbling with a few designs myself. There's a little subscribe word, 3D word that sits up like that. I did that in Tinkercad, which is an online, really basic, made for kids really, 3D designing program. Very easy to work out. Good little tutorials. It's just basically shapes that you can drag onto the workbench and pull to different shapes and put holes in and join together and things like that. But that took a couple of minutes to make that up. There's another one on a sort of a flat support. All good fun. And I've made a couple of pushrod designs as well. And I learned some valuable things about strength, because 3D printing is sort of adding up layers. And there's strength along the layers, but there's not a lot of strength going up through the layers, as you can see here. See, that isn't really strong enough for a lot of use. So that was printed on the base sitting up like that, so printing up like that. So I designed another one which prints like that. So it's got much, much more strength in this part here. I can't break it. I probably could break the base, but that's not as important. So you have to think about which way you're printing with regard to where you want the strength to be, especially with sort of small and thin and light builds. But good fun learning that stuff anyway. And this I designed in SketchUp, which again is now an online program. You used to have it as a desktop program, but it's now changed to online for the free version. And I really like SketchUp. It does take a fair bit to learn, but there are good tutorials around. But yeah, I've been playing with SketchUp for quite a while, so that'll be my main program for designing bits and pieces. So here's my little fan cover, and that just uses the existing cover bolts. Fixes in like that. So that just stops stuff falling down into the casing through the fan vents and directs the air out this way. Another mod I'm going to do is to do with the SD card slot. Now that is a very awkward spot to have the SD card spot. I couldn't have thought of a worse spot to position that. Really hard to get your hand in there. So I have bought a micro SD card extender cable, which is a ribbon cable that comes out to a standard SD card reader slot sort of thing. So I'm going to plug that in there and have the reader bolted on over here. So I'll be able to pop the cards in a lot easier over at this spot. A few little mods and it's all good fun. I'm really enjoying it. Here's a little skull I've just printed from Thingiverse, and I've got a link in the description. It took about 3.5 hours to print this, and it's a good example of the support structures that it has to print to sort of hold it stable while it's being printed. The support under the chin there, in the eye sockets and inside as well, and these should be easy to sort of pick out and clean up. There we go. So there we are. I had to delicately pick all of this stuff out with pliers, quite difficult, and the jaw is actually a separate piece, so I've had to glue that on too. And here's a little FPV mount that I'm working on. So that is designed to hold the video transmitter in there. I may just put a cable tie around there, and FPV camera sits in the little slot in there, double-sided tape and tape on top, or screwed through, or whatever you want to do.